We're back. This time we're going to take a look at the Resistance from Indie Board Games and Cards. This one's an older game, came out in 2012. It's a really fun party game, but a lot of it depends on the group of people that you play with. And they recommend it for 13 and up, but I played it with my kids and they both got the concept and figured it out pretty good. They're actually really good at it. 5 to 10 players, 30 minutes. Again, the more people you get, the better, but it all depends on the people you play. And it's kind of a who's who. You're accusing each other and trying to figure out who the spies are. And we'll open up, take a look. First up, you have your rule book. There isn't too much here. It's not that complicated of a game. Basically, it goes through the explanation of how a turn works and different variants to the rules. And there was an Inquisitor expansion for larger games to help the Resistance have a slight edge, and that comes included in the box set. First, you have our game boards, and they have them listed by player counts. 5 players, 2 spies. 6 players, 2 spies. 7 players, 3 spies. 8 players, 3 spies. 9 players, 3 spies. And 10 player, 4 spies. So on your boards here you have these up here, which tell you how many players you have to take on each mission. And then down here is your round counter. And a little marker to keep track of the round. It slides across as you go. And then you have these little tokens for the Resistance and the spies that you use to mark successful or failed on missions. So at the beginning of the game, you're going to take these player cards, depending on the number of players that you have. So in this case, we're looking at 8 players with 3 spies. So we would take 5 Resistance fighters, all with the Resistance spider icon there, and our 3 spies. These are going to get randomly shuffled and then dealt out to the players. Then there's a reveal step where all the players close their eyes, and whoever drew the spy cards opens their eyes. So the 2 or 3 spies, or however many you have in your game, are going to know who each other is, but nobody else will. It's kind of an interesting mechanic. Seen it in a few other games of this type, but it's really neat because they know each other, so they know who to trust, who they can screw over, and things like that. And then for the rest of the game, these remain secret, so nobody else knows except for them. Now, if you're playing an extremely large game, there's a variant where one player gets the Inquisitor token, and the Inquisitor can look at someone else's card. You can never look at the same person's card more than once, and you can't look at the Inquisitor's card. So, and then once you pick someone, you give them the Inquisitor, and they become the Inquisitor. It's an interesting little mechanic. In a really large game, it lets you basically know yes or no positive on 3 of the people. But then it all comes down to the people who are going to bluff. Like, you could look at somebody and they are a Resistance fighter, and you yourself are a spy, so then you call them out as a spy, and now everybody doesn't know who to trust because, of course, they're going to immediately deny it, and it goes back and forth. It's an interesting little concept. So after you've figured out who's the Resistance fighters and who's the spies, you can start with your missions. The person who's the current leader is going to have this token to represent that they're in charge. The person in charge gets to pick the missions. In this case, our first mission requires 3 people. So we're going to take 3 of these tokens. You can distribute them to anybody at the table, including yourself. If you know you're a Resistance agent, you can give 1 to yourself. Although if the mission fails, people may think that you're one of the spies. As the game progresses and people start getting an idea who the spies may be, who gets picked to go on the missions kind of whittles it down. And they never have, like in this case, the most people you ever need for a mission is 5. There's 5 Resistance fighters in the actual game, so if you choose right, there should be no way those can fail. But anyway, you give these to your 3 players that are going to be on the mission. The rest of the team then gets these. Everybody has these tokens here. The rest of the team in secret will pick one of these 2 and toss it in. And you see if the mission is approved or rejected. So if the mission is approved, you go on to the next step and actually try the mission. If the mission is rejected, then play moves on to the next player and they go through and suggest their team. If 5 teams in a row are rejected, then the spies win the game. A tie also counts as a rejection when tallying up the votes. Now that you have our approved mission and we have our people selected, the next thing they're going to do is secretly choose if they want the mission to succeed or fail. Now, if you're a resistance fighter, you have to choose success, which is fine because you want things to succeed. If you're a spy, you get to choose either or. And a lot of people think, why wouldn't you want it to fail? Well, if there's only 2 people on the mission and people already know one of them is a resistance fighter and you choose fail, then in the very least that person knows that you're the spy, if not multiple people at the table who may already know that that guy's trustworthy. So you may want to succeed in certain missions, you may want to fail in other missions. The goal overall is to make them fail as many as possible. In smaller games, a single fail is enough to fail the mission. In games of 7 players or more, you need at least 2 fails to fail the mission. So keep that in mind, but a lot of the game is about bluffing, calling other people out. You're allowed to basically say or do anything you want during the game to throw the blame off yourself on other people or to accuse other people, but it comes down to the mission voting that really makes the difference. So if the mission succeeds, you're going to put the blue token over the mission. If it fails, you're going to put the red token. And then that proceeds on each round as you go. And like I said, as the rounds progress, you're going to be putting the marker down here to keep track of rounds. There's also a variant of the game where instead of doing them in order across, you can pick and choose. It comes with this little target token, and you just put the target token on the mission that you're attempting to complete and then choose your party accordingly. It's a very interesting concept. There's several games out there now that use something similar. Definitely really depends a lot on the group you're playing with. If you got a group of people who are really into role playing and can really get into the characters and have that have the ability to accuse others and keep their own identity a secret, it can be a lot of fun. If you have a pretty stuffy group who just aren't into the role play, who just can't really get into it, it can also be a little boring. So it's definitely a based on your group. The bigger the group, the better the game, I think. It adds a lot more to it. And it's a nice, fun, quick party game. Not something I could see playing all night long, but definitely a good filler in between other games. And definitely has a place on the table and in a collection if you have the right group of people that you're going to be playing with. And that's about it for the Resistance. Again, it's a nice, fun, quick game. Definitely better the more players you have, but again, it depends on the group of people that you're playing with. In the right hands, it can be a lot of fun. In the wrong hands, it can be kind of an oddball, but definitely worth taking a look at. There are a bunch of videos online of people actually playing, and I believe they played it on tabletop at one point. It is a lot easier to grasp the rules if you see somebody actually play a game first, so check those out and see if it's something that might interest you or not. Anyway, that's it for this one, and we'll see you in the next video.